This is a presentation on the 1099 Toolkit for Dynamics 365 for Business Central. What does the toolkit provide you? It allows you to be able to review and correct vendor information before printing 1099s instead of the way Business Central does it. After you print your 1099s, look through them and decide that there's something wrong. Although Business Central allows users to correct information, there's no way to find what needs to be corrected, and if you don't know, there's no way that you can find it. So what is it the toolkit enables you to review and correct? Well, it allows you to review all of the federal ID numbers for all of your vendors. If you have missing federal ID numbers, then no 1099 will print and you'll never know it. It also checks for duplicate federal IDs, in which case multiple 1099s would be printed for the same vendor, something that the IRS does not like. Finally, it allows you to be able to verify that the federal ID numbers are all 9 characters. Exactly. Believe it or not, it's easy to miskey a federal ID number, and if it's not 9 characters, it won't print. So this allows you to be able to view all of your vendors, verify that you have federal IDs, that they're correct, and that they're not duplicated. It also allows you to review all of the payments that have been made to vendors and to verify that they've been properly coded or coded at all, because any payment that's not coded will not appear on the 1099s. So if you're missing a 1099 code on an invoice, that means that the payment will not have a 1099 code, and it will not be included on the document when printed. Also, it may be that only partial amounts are to be reported, because only labor is reportable on, for example, a 1099 MISC 07. And if you haven't marked the individual lines, you may be sending a 1099 for an entire invoice amount where it should only be for the labor lines. The 1099 toolkit allows you to be able to adjust the amounts for non-reportable amounts when they're combined with reportable amounts on a single invoice. This allows you to review what's going to be printed on the 1099 before printing it, and you'll be able to see total amounts by vendor, by code. It will allow you to print the Form 1096. If you're going to print the 1099s and mail them to the IRS, which is allowed if you are submitting fewer than 250, then it's required that you print a summary sheet called a 1096. Business Central does not provide you the 1096 form. How can you print it out, a cover sheet, when you're submitting your 1099s if the report isn't even there? We provide the 1096 and all 3 1099 documents, the 1099 INT, MISC, and DIV. We also provide a link to the IRS Fire portal, allow you to be able to internally create the file and upload it to the portal as long as you have your TCC number. This is the transmitter control code, which the IRS assigns to all vendors on request. Remember that if you're submitting more than 250, it's mandatory that you use the Fire portal, the digital upload. But the IRS encourages all vendors to use the digital upload, even if there are less than 250 1099s. So let's take a quick look and see how the information looks in Business Central. So here's Business Central, and if we go over to the search bar and type in 1099 Toolkit, we'll see all of the entries. So the first thing that you may want to do is use the Fire setup, which allows you to enter the fiscal year that you're reporting, the TCC code if you're going to use it, and a contact name, etc. Then the next thing you might want to do is go down to Show All and review the federal IDs. That would be the first step. So we open that up and we take a look at the report. And on this report, you'll notice that Progressive Home Furnishings, the federal ID is missing. Well, that means that they're not going to get a 1099. Now, maybe they shouldn't, but maybe they should. This is letting you know that there's no federal ID for Progressive Home Furnishings. The next two are duplicated. So this federal ID and this one are the same thing. If these are the same accounts, then they should have only a single federal ID. There should only be a single account, actually. Or if they're two different accounts, then you may have entered the federal ID incorrectly and you need to fix it. This one's okay. There's no issue marked on here. This one is not 9 characters. Believe it or not, I just was installing this on a client and I found 2 accounts that did not have 9 characters on the federal ID and they didn't know it. This one is fine. It has no issue. This one, these 2 are missing federal IDs. These 2 are duplicated. This one's missing. So this will give you an idea of if you need to correct federal ID information. Now, if you're going to generate this report and you have vendors that are outside the US, you might want to set a filter so you only see US vendors. The next thing you might want to do is you might want to take a look at the payments. So we're going to take a look 1099 Toolkit. And again, look at the information. So we're going to take a look at the vendor prep information. This is a report that shows you what how the payments, all of the payments are coded. So let's open it up. We'll take a look. We see sorted by vendor. There's your London Postmaster. This is the code that's on the vendor card. These are the payments that have been made to that vendor, and this is how they've been coded. There's the federal ID. 2 payments were made to the London Postmaster. One was coded DIV03, 104. DIV03 is the code that's on the vendor card. Now, maybe that's correct, maybe it's not, in which case you may want to adjust this transaction code. Maybe they should have both been DIV03. Coolwood Technologies, this was an INT. So this shows you by vendor all of the payments that have been made and how they're currently coded. They may not have been coded at all. This may be blank. So maybe now what you want to do is go into the worksheet to be able to fix things. So we go to 1099 Toolkit and we go to the vendor prep information. So now here are all of the entries that were made for the invoices and credit memos and payments. Maybe we just want to see the payments. So we remove that filter and now we're looking at just the payments and we can see each of the payments for each of the vendors. Now remember, if the federal ID is not correct, the information will not show up in here and it won't be printed on a 1099. So it's absolutely critical that you get this information right. Now, we made a change in the basic functionality on Business Central. So right now with Business Central, this is the amount that's going to print out on the 1099. But that may or may not be correct because you may say that some of these are not reportable. So we added a new field, IRS 1099 amount. This is the original amount on the invoice, but you can go in and edit this, and this is what's going to print on the 1099. So if you need to edit it, you can see the original amount and you can adjust the amount for this payment that's going to be included in the 1099. This is a tremendous savings of time. Finally, once you're done reviewing all of the information, we go to 1099 Toolkit, and one by one you can print out, if you want to print a hard copy, which you'll need to do to mail to your vendor. You can print your DIV, 1099 DIV, INT, and MISC documents, and you can also print your 1096 if you're going to mail the hard copy to the IRS. Otherwise, you can go into the Fire setup, and from here you can create the file that's going to be uploaded into the IRS Fire portal. All very simple, tremendously simple to verify that the data that you're sending is complete and accurate for the benefit of the IRS, for the benefit of your company, and for the benefit of your vendors. So, if you have any questions,